Okay, this is a video of the money supply multiplier. You'll find this information on page 231 through 233 of your textbook of chapter 10, the money supply process. But I feel like as I read through that, I feel like it's very confusing. So sometimes I think it helps to have it just kind of mapped out a little bit more simply. So this up here is the formula itself. But then if you go to those pages, you'll see that the K is the currency ratio. And then this is actually the formula for the currency ratio. So I've taken this formula and I have converted it into like what those symbols mean. So the K is our currency ratio, which is our currency divided by our deposits. Then again on the bottom, it's our K, which is our currency divided by our deposits. And then the R with a little subscript of an R is our required reserve ratio, which is our required reserve divided by our deposits. And then our R with the little subscript of E is our excess reserve ratio, which is our excess reserve divided by our deposits. So then that's really kind of the big mathematical formula there. And then if we have an example, again, this is from our text. So if we have currency that is 750 billion, deposits that are 500 billion, reserves that are 51 billion, and then our required reserves is 50 billion. Assume that there's a 10% required reserve ratio. So then from this, we know that the level of excess reserves is 1 billion. So also if you would look in our book, it tells you that our, I can write it down here though, the reserves are actually equal to, whoops, the required reserves plus the excess. Then now, so that's your formula for the reserves. So if we know the reserves, if we come up to the problem, it tells us that if this is 51 and then this one is 50, then obviously the excess is 1. So, again, you can kind of map into what that is, but it does also tell you in the problem that the excess is 1 billion. So then if we come over to our formula here, we can kind of fill in our blanks with those numbers, and then you can kind of see it worked out. So the 1, obviously, plus, then in this case, whoops, wants to do a formula, and I'm not doing that with it right now, so we'll make it like that. But then in here, we're going to have our currency divided by our deposits. So that would be 750 divided by 500. So if I want to make that, I guess I'll leave it like that for now. Doesn't have to be. Okay, then all of that is going to go over top. So I'll put a little bottom underline there. That's going to go over our currency over the deposit. So that's the same thing that we had above. And then we're going to add to that. Sorry about that again. I don't want it to be a formula. Then we're going to add to that our required reserve divided by the deposit. So again, our required reserves is the 50 billion, and then our deposits are the 500 billion. Okay, and then finally, our last one is the excess reserves, which is the 1, divided by the deposits, which is 500. So then we can simplify those to say, okay, well, it's 1 plus, whoops. It's going to be, now if you want now in Excel, I could let the calculator do it. So 750 divided by 500 is 1.5. And then the same thing here, 750 divided by 100 is 1.5. And then the the 50 divided by the 500 is 0.1, and then the 1 divided by the 500 is 0.002. So again, these are all going to be added together and set over each other. So if I come over here, I can just say, okay, now I want to add this plus this for my top. Sorry, I put a little. So I've got 250 on the top, and then I'm going to have these all three added together down here. So then that leaves me 2.25 divided by 1.602. So then now if I do the math of that, I get to that 1.5605. And then what that is that's our money supply multiplier. And then what we use it is so that every dollar increase in our monetary base so every dollar increase in the monetary base will lead to $1.56 increase in the money supply. So then if somebody adds $1 into their savings account or something along those lines, that's going to create $1.56 in the money supply, which again makes us more. So again, the more money that comes in, the more money that can go out and be in the form of loans. So I feel like that needed a little bit of clarification. So don't get overwhelmed by that formula. Just kind of come back to what it is, because the mathematics obviously is not very hard once you kind of decipher the formula. So then hopefully this will help you if you have any of those in your homework, or if there's one on your test.